Okay, we'll start in just a minute. I'm just letting it run in case to give people a chance to show up for the pre-stream. Sorry, to show up for the stream. We'll start in a minute or two. Just it can sometimes take people a couple minutes. Um, let's see here. Okay, we'll start it in a second. It's literally only been 3 minutes. I'm just going to grab a glass of water and then we'll start. Actually, while I'm grabbing that, there's something I think in honor of Liberation Day that I should be playing. So you can enjoy this and I'll be back in a second and we'll start the stream.
This vessel is top of the line, you know. The pinnacle of Terran engineering. Ignore that noise. I don't know what that is. We come not as conquerors, but as liberators, to return freedom to the people. Here's some freedom for you. And here's some freedom for you. Oh, and Mama's got a whole lot of freedom for you. If there's a piece of ground you want secure, my liberator can handle it. Anywhere around it, you're kind of on your own. We've learned a lot about transforming vehicles since the Viking. Hell, I've only had one crewman snap his spine this week. Don't tell anyone, but I once piloted a conservator. Yeah, but it was in college, so, it doesn't count. I'm a strong believer in personal liberty. That every person has the liberty to do precisely as they are told, or be put to death. By the way, freedom is not free, okay? Freedom costs $1.05. Everyone.
Service come.
Here. Perfect.
Anyway, so that was the Liberator from StarCraft 2. A unit that whenever I've tried to play as Zerg has been, well, the bane of my existence. It's not a fun unit to play as if you're Zerg against Terran mech. But anyways, let us get started with this. So I wanted to maybe just ask something at the start of the stream, and I probably should ask this years ago. Does anyone mind if I maybe just start using PowerPoint for some of these videos? Like, I didn't really want to use it because I like in the past, because I figured it was like too lame even for me. But I use it for work a lot, and it might be an easier way for me to like explain what topic I'm on, and I could throw like images and stuff into there. So maybe I'll start doing that. It would be a relatively easy way to add some sort of video content to these. Anyways, so that being said, I have done a couple slides for this. There. So maybe I'll. Okay, if people are okay with me using Power, okay, that's fine. Then I'll just start using that going forward. I just thought it might be like too lame or too cringe or something, but that might be easier, even just to give me some topics. Okay, because I was trying to slightly increase my production quality, hence why I have an actual background now. Okay, so let us begin. Now, as you guys all know, we had Liberation Day the other day. Trump brought in massive tariffs against a lot of the world. Now, it depends on the particular country. The base level tariff is 10%, but it ranges from like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%. Or something like that, is all over the board. I think the highest was like Vietnam or here. Let me just look this up while we're talking. I'm just trying to find the different ones that Trump has come up with. So let's take a peek at this. So what we're going to do in this stream is I'm going to talk about what I think the possibilities are for what Trump is going for with regards to this whole thing. like the different, because there's a couple different ones ranging from Trump is just insane to this is like a 40 chess plan. So that was the first explanation. Okay, so let's take a look at these tariff rates. So if you haven't watched it, I recommend it. It's a good podcast in general. But the Lotus Eaters did a show on the whole Trump tariff thing, and they've basically been the only people who have said that Trump is doing the right thing on this one. Pretty much everybody else seems to have an extremely negative view on it, but they attempted to explain it, so I'd recommend go and take a look at that. So, yeah, if we go and look at the different tariff rates, they don't actually have that many. So they explained that the tariff is based on it is based on the amount of actual trade between the two countries. So it's like this, excluding services. So I think that's the thing that they said to keep in mind with this, that these tariff rates are based on real trade. That is trade that's based on like manufactured goods or foodstuffs or things that the American economy actually produces. It's not including services. So this actually kind of makes sense when you start to think about it, because the UK is at 10%. And what does the US really import from the UK? Other than maybe some luxury cars, the UK isn't really a competitor with the US when it comes to manufacturing. The countries that got hit hardest tend to be ones that produce manufacturing, especially ones that have very low costs relative to the United States, like Cambodia, Vietnam, are where a lot of the world's garment industry is located. So that makes sense. And then we have other countries that I don't think really sell much to the U.S. That is competitive. So I think that's something to keep in mind. So people are saying like Russia did not receive any tariffs, and people are saying this shows that Trump is in Putin's pocket. Now, he's been so like Russia's been so heavily sanctioned at this point. What would be the point of putting more tariffs on? I mean, they're already like sanctioned basically every way they possibly can be. So I think they said, what is really the point? Also, the stuff that the U.S. imports from Russia is, I looked it up, it's fertilizer, non-ferrous metals. So I'd imagine that's like nickel, copper, tin, stuff like that, and inorganic chemicals. So all of those things are stuff that the U.S. needs, but it is not able to produce, but is not in direct. It's not in direct competition. Like, I don't think the U.S. has the ability to make some of those chemicals and won't for a foreseeable amount of time. The fertilizer is good for bauxite. Okay, thank you, Ouroboros. So stuff like that. So that's not seen really as a direct competition to anything the U.S. produces, and it would be pointless to begin with. People were also saying, well, North Korea is not on this list. Well, North Korea is really heavily sanctioned. Interestingly, Singapore is so low, despite it being a industrial country. Maybe it's because Singapore is like a developed country, so the goods there are not. There isn't quite the same like third world bargain bin amount of money. So yeah, so this is what the tariffs look like. So there's a couple different ways to look at this. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to come out and, okay, so my personal opinion, and I might try to do this more because people seem to enjoy when I did the one on the Russo-Ukraine war. It's not that I don't give my opinion in these. It's that. Oh, did the chat just not load? Oh, oops. That's my bad. It's Boomer Argent. There we go. Um, okay, sorry. Where was I? I lost my train of thought briefly as I realized that chat was not actually on screen. Okay, so Ouroboros says Singapore's largest industrial base is oil refinery. Yeah, that's the other thing. If you notice, countries that are significant producers of oil are largely pretty low on this. Um, and that's because the U.S. doesn't want to increase oil prices more because that's important to Trump. Anyways, so it's not that I don't give my opinion when I do these shows. It's just I sometimes don't really give what I morally think or what I would necessarily personally do. It's me trying to take a look at it from different perspectives or see where the facts go or something like that. So, like, my personal feelings, I do, you probably get across. I don't necessarily uh, always state them directly. When it comes to this, I'm going to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what Donald's going for. We're going to look at three different possibilities, and I think all of them are quite possibly accurate or some mix of them, and they're all just completely. Sorry, 1 second. Hello. Yep. Let me just come to the front. Sorry about that, guys. I know that was kind of weird. There was just a package that was delivered, and I just got a text, so I was just picking that up. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, so I think all three options are about equal in terms of what it's going through. So I'm going to say first and foremost, I think Trump went about this the wrong way. Now, I know there's a lot of, like, Americans who, whenever I say this, get angry at me and go, you're just like a pussy, you're a Canadian. But I feel like a lot of the time, the way Trump does things, he could have very easily done them in a less confrontational, a less dickish way, and still gotten the same result. And this is, I think, a good example of that. Like, the Denmark thing over Greenland, the whole thing over Canada, whatever the beef is with Canada, like the stuff about Europe, I get it. I sometimes get what he's trying to do. I don't think that there's any like reason necessarily to be a dick about it to the degree that he is. I think there's room to get your point across in a slightly more diplomatic way and not just piss people off because it's funny. Like, it's funny when Trump goes out and shits on people and mocks them and stuff like that. And sometimes that's necessary. But I don't know if that's necessarily the first thing you should do. Being seen as strong is important, but people liking you on the international stage, I think, is also important. And this whole thing is just very, like, hackneyed, like some sort of MacGyver thrown together. It doesn't make a ton of sense, and stuff like that. But, like, also it just pisses off. And so I've said this a lot of times. As someone who comes from an upper middle class family, a lot of Trump's mannerisms are kind of off putting to me. Like, I do feel that he's just kind of a dick in a lot of cases where he doesn't really need to be, and he's unnecessarily trying to mog people. Like, Trump is an alpha male, I get it, and he's the head of the alpha male country, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being an optics guy or something like that. It's just I feel like a lot of people in this white people in the suburbs who might sympathize with guys like him are a little alienated by that in a way they might not be from Vance. And I don't really see like what the benefit is of trying to actively pick a fight with Europeans. Like I feel like with a lot of this, is there even any demands? Like, did Trump even make any demands? Like with the whole Canada thing, he made demands and then they canceled the tariffs, and then he made demands again, and then I don't know. That's me as a Canadian. I don't get why, and it's once again it's like the Trump people will just yell at me and say, "Oh, well, it's funny when he shits on Europe. It's funny when he shits on Canada. It's funny when he talks about invading Greenland." And I mean, it is. I just don't know, like if it's. I think in the long run, it might make some things harder to do. By just unnecessarily alienating people. I don't know. Once again, people can agree or disagree with me on that. So I think that's number one. Now, with regards to this whole tariff thing, I think tariffs were a good idea. The problem is I don't know if like this just like shotgun approach of just we're going to put tariffs on everybody is necessarily the right way to go about it. And that's why this stream is called like Trump throws the die, because I feel like this might be kind of an attempt to upend the game board, to do something kind of not desperate, but just something radical, to try to force change in a very short period of time. Because generally speaking, how tariffs are used is they are placed on specific products, and they are used as a way to foster domestic industry. So let's say you want to build up the steel industry, you put tariffs on steel from another country. The steel from that country becomes more expensive than producing the steel in your country, and gradually speaking, the market responds to that, and they open up steel production in your country, and they're able to sell it for a cheaper cost. And that's true for like a lot of things. Computers, cars, stuff like that. The idea is to reduce dependency on other countries. Now, the thing to keep in mind, though, is some countries will have comparative or absolute advantages over each other. Like, this is very true for natural resources. Like, some countries have oil and some countries don't have oil. And this was kind of an issue Nazi Germany came across, was they couldn't really have a fully autarkic economy, like a self-sufficient economy, because they didn't have oil. So they tried to do like synthetic oil and stuff like that, but it just never would really be enough. And I think that was part of trying to invade the Soviet Union, was to get access to a reliable source of oil. But you get what I'm saying. Also, like Canada putting tariffs on bananas or mangoes or pineapples or something like that we can't actually grow in this country, I don't think makes a lot of sense. So that was kind of how it was initially used by like the Federalists and kind of the early Americans, was as a way to build up America's domestic industry by reducing imports from the early industrialized countries like the United Kingdom. And it largely worked. The thing is, though, that tariffs are very much a double-edged sword. If you put them too high and you leave them high for too long, it can lead to widespread corruption, inefficiency, incompetence, low quality of goods, and stuff like that. So ideally what you do is you lower the tariffs over time. Like they start up at a certain level, and then as your industry becomes more competitive, you lower them to force your industry to be competitive. Anyways, so I think Trump was right to do tariffs. I don't know if this was necessarily a good idea in order to just tariff everything. I think like cars make sense, steel makes sense, a lot of manufacturing things make sense. I don't know if necessarily just everything needed to be tariffed. So I understand that and I largely agree with it. I'm just not sure about the whole approach to it. Okay, so let us go through the different theories as to what Trump is doing. Okay, so theory number one: tariff is a cool word. So this is just the idea that Trump just thinks Trump's kind of an old man who's a little bit senile, and he thinks tariff is a cool word, and it is a cool word, and it sounds neat, and he likes the idea of it. His actual understanding of it is somewhat limited. He just has this idea that if we put tariffs, it'll rebuild America's domestic domestic policies. Domestic economy, and so we're just going to do tariffs and because William McKinley did it, and during America's greatest periods of growth, there were tariffs during the 19th century. So maybe we can just repeat it. So I guess that's kind of number one. That's maybe a very shallow way of looking at it. But some of my friends said that there isn't necessarily a grand plan. It's just he thinks it's a cool idea and he just decided to do it. So that's kind of the number one. Maybe it's I don't know. It's up to you if you think that that's the most realistic option or not. But that's certainly a possibility that there is no massive plan to the whole thing. It's just this. So I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm just going through what the possibilities are. Okay, number two. The art of the many deals. So this is the other thought I was having. So maybe what Trump is doing is he is just throwing this all out there as a way of kind of holding the world hostage or just forcing everyone to take him seriously. And what he's going to do now is individually renegotiate with each individual country. Like my understanding is Vietnam has already said, well, we'll lower our tariffs on American goods if you want to take it down as well. And maybe this is what Trump's doing is he's doing this to scare everybody, and then he's going to use this as leverage to renegotiate with individual groups. And it's achieving a whole bunch of little things, or not little things, but of individual victories using the shock and awe of kind of a broader policy. So once again, these things are not all mutually exclusive, but I do think there is an argument to be made here that, okay, we've gone through all these countries, there's going to be panic, there's going to be stuff like that, and we'll use this opportunity to renegotiate trade deals. And I think that is a possibility. I don't know if people in the chat maybe want to comment on that or anything, but I certainly think that that's part of the case. And I think, like, with regards to China, I think Trump still wants to do business with China, but I think he wants there to be a divorce of sorts where America becomes less dependent on China over time. So maybe the renegotiation with China is China reduces the exports of cars or doesn't play with its currency in certain ways, and Trump lowers the tariffs. And it's just about achieving a whole bunch of different deals at the same time. So that's number two. I think that is quite a plausible outcome. That would be Trump being smart and a little edgy, but not doing anything, I think, really crazy. So that's the number two one. And then we get to the most interesting one. America, Alea iacta est. I'm not probably not pronouncing it right. So here's how it is. I'm gonna do what I always do and compare everything to FromSoft games. So Biden was playing Armor Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, and he was trying to get the Fires of Raven ending. He was trying to burn it all down. He was trying to start nuclear war with Russia. He was trying to do all that kind of stuff. So he was trying to get that ending. Now, when Trump came to power and he started talking to the Russians, we thought we were going to get the Liberator of Rubicon ending. We thought that everything was just kind of going to go back to normal. The flow of history was going to go on. But Trump, like, I don't know if he beat that ending or he just got bored with that ending. And he's like, we're going to go with the die is cast on this one. We're going to do something radical. We're going to attempt to bring about meaningful and lasting change all at once. So that is, I think, the third one. And this is kind of the most interesting thing. So why is Trump doing something radical? I think the first and foremost, okay, so I think the two just practical things to get out of the way, and I think this applies regardless of what theory you have, is A, it's early in his presidency, and if he's going to do it, he has to do it now, because there's no, what's it called again? There's no guarantee that Vance or Rubio or DeSantis or someone who shares Trump's policy ideas will win next election. So if Trump wants this to have any chance of succeeding while he's still president, he has to do it now. Sorry, just... So he's going to do it now, and hopefully things will resolve it. They will start to be positive actions by the end of his term, even if there's some initial pain, and he can set things up for his successor. Similarly, there's also the issue of the midterm elections. The midterm elections are also a ongoing issue. The midterm elections are the Republicans are probably going to be in trouble with regards to this and increases in whatever prices. So he's trying to get this done as soon as possible so it can be memory hold. So I think on a practical perspective, that's why it's being done now. Also, I think Trump is doing a bit of a trying to punch drunk the left. So there's an expression called punch drunk, which is where you're boxing and someone just hits you so many times in a row that you just kind of go into a state of confusion, almost like you're drunk. You just get hit with so many things at once, you're overwhelmed and unable to defend yourself. And I think there's an argument to be made that maybe that is what Trump is doing with just everything, because he's basically going after executive orders covering just about everything. All at once, and I think it could once again be just we're trying to do this now along with everything else so that the left is not sure how to deal with it. Something Alexander Mercouris has pointed out is there is not really strong there's not really strong opposition to this within the United States. There is people who are against it, but compared to some other things Trump has done, I haven't seen a massive backlash to the same degree I have with some of the other things that he's come up with. And I think part of the issue the Democrats have is this is popular with a lot of their base too. So that end, as Royal Retrograde points out, Trump has to completely flip the way America functions economically in order to make it irreversible, like my raincoat. If people get that reference. So I think that's the first part of it. So here's what I think is the possibility, and this is kind of the once again the more interesting possibility, is that Trump came to power, and this is something I've seen a lot when we talk about the Russo-Ukraine war, where people will say, well, Trump is reading Russia Today, and that's where he's getting his news from, and he's believing Russian disinformation agents and stuff like that. Keep in mind, Trump has access to intelligence and data and stuff the rest of us can only dream of. We don't know what he found out when he came back into power or what he's been getting in intelligence briefings for the last couple of years or what Elon's uncovered when he was digging through everything with Doge. I think that has to be kept in mind. That Trump has access to information that we don't have. So I think it could be that he just took stock of the situation and said, look, we're heading towards a disaster. Still better than TCR. Sorry, what was TCR again? I could be... Oh, Tariff Cool War. No, actually, I don't know what TCR is, so maybe just... But thank you for the money. So he came to power and he goes, look, this is a mess. This is unsustainable. Biden ran through this insane spending spree to create a completely fake economy. The Lotus Eaters did a good job of this on their podcast where they were showing some like woman who has some undescribable job that was just created to sorry, I'm losing my train of thought there. I need to not look at chat. What was I thinking? Sorry about that. I was actually kind of going to roll. Yeah, and he said that, okay, we're going to have to do something drastic. The economy, like the numbers are worse than everybody thinks. The debt is unsustainable. The point that Lotus Eaters was trying to make is so much of the economy is just bullshit. Like it's stuff that shouldn't even exist. Most of it was created in order to find jobs for women and minorities to a certain extent. Like all this diversity consultant and like a lot of the DEI stuff and the massive HR departments. And if you look at some universities, there'll be like one admin for every like 3 students, and that's not even an exaggeration, and stuff like that, and just all the administrative bloat that has been created in order to provide jobs for largely women is what the economy largely is at this point in time. It's smoke and mirrors. It's pumped up by basically the government printing money, using it to fund various initiatives and tax benefits and programs and stuff like that to create these fake jobs in order to just kind of keep things going on for just a little bit for just a little while longer. And so Trump goes, look, this is going to blow up anyways. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go all in. We're going to try to fix the problem. We're going to go in and try to and try to make fundamental change and just rip it off. Like this is always the debate you have in policy because like when I studied, I remember when I was reading about the Canadian housing market, there's a debate as to whether it would be better to just pop the balloon and cause the crash of all the prices all at once and just have like a massive reset or adjustment, or if it would be better to lower it over time and gradually let the air out of the balloon, and both have different benefits and drawbacks with regards to this. So Trump might just go, look, what we're going to do is we're just going to do this. This is probably going to destroy a lot of the fake parts of the economy, especially combined with Doge just cutting everything. And we're just going to try to brute force America to reindustrialize and to create real jobs again and to bring its industry back. And there's not time for us to try to do something fancy. There's not time for us to take like 20, 30 years to do this. This is one of the advantages that the Chinese have, is because China is a one-party state, they can think in terms of decades or even centuries, whereas Western countries have to think in terms of like a 4-year electoral cycle. So for China, they might have like a 20, 30-year plan or something like that. And if there's some setbacks or if parts of the plan are not going necessarily as intended, they're able to take that. They're able to endure that and deal with it. But it's just not possible in this case. Once again, to ensure that Trump is going to be able to have this endure beyond his term. So I think what he's saying is, okay, we're going to rip off the Band-Aid. We're just gonna throw a grenade into this, and either it's gonna fix itself or it's going to crash. So yeah, hopefully people hopefully that makes sense to people. So what was I saying again? So yeah, it's an attempt to. It's kind of like Majorian in the end of the Roman Empire. It's attempting to just take it all back. It's attempting to, okay, we're gonna do the YOLO economic policy. We're gonna try to just dramatically reinforce it. Either we're going to get the industry to come back, to get companies to move to America, or it's just going to be a disaster. But this way we at least have a chance of it happening, rather than us just slowly going into default and having the debt get worse and worse and worse. So this is a complex interpretation of it. Obviously, there's lots of subparts with regards to what Trump could be thinking. But my general point is that Trump sees there as being a major problem coming, and he thinks the only way really to address it is just to go all in and just try to fix it and just try to do whatever he can to reverse the situation now, even if there's going to be a lot of pain and there's going to be a lot of inflation in the short to medium term. So that is kind of, I think, the economic rationale behind this, is that the specifics of what the actual tariffs are, or who they're against, or stuff like that is kind of secondary compared to the general principle and the message that it sends. It's not about the tariffs, it's about sending the message. Now, Arbendit points out that it's also about maybe replacing some of the income taxes with tariffs. Now, I'm going to be honest, I looked this up a bit. I've seen a lot of different estimates, from like $1 to $6 trillion. I'm just going to say we don't know how much money this is going to generate. The actual effects of this, I'm going to wait a while, because there's just so much nonsense, and Trump could just reverse his position on it. And there's just so many things that are up in the air. So I'm not going to get super like decisive or attached to any particular outcome or how this thing is going to go. So is it possible that Trump wants to use this to replace income taxes to a certain degree? I think it's certainly possible, but I don't see any real consistent explanation of how much that's going to be or how long that's going to take or stuff like that. Once again, it might, but We really are going to kind of have to wait and see. So, in the short term, what this is going to do is this is going to increase prices on a lot of things in the United States. Things that are not made in the US, that are imported from elsewhere, are going to become a lot more expensive. So that's going to be stuff, probably clothes, appliances, cheap, just a lot of inexpensive stuff that comes from China, a lot of stuff that comes from the third world, and like in Vietnam and Thailand and even places like South Korea or something like that. And that stuff is all going to probably become more expensive overnight. Eventually, the economy will adapt. The principle in internet in political economics is called ISI, or industrial substitution, industrialization. So very quickly, companies will start turning to American equivalents. So if maybe so like let's do some napkin math. Let's say if the let's say American steel is 10% more expensive than Chinese steel. It's not worthwhile to use the American steel instead. Now, if you put a 20% tariff on the Chinese steel, then the American steel becomes cheaper, and people will use um, the we'll use that instead. And I think you will, in a lot of cases, rapidly see things readjust. Either they will go on and start using existing American equivalents, or the market will just adapt. Now, some things are going to take a while because building factories and things like that are going to be a long, slow process. But even then, like the fact from what I've heard, and this could just be from the pro Russia guys, but if you go and look at factories in Russia or China or a lot of places like that, a lot of them are a lot more advanced. They're a lot more modern, clean, automated, efficient, stuff like that. And that a lot of the American factories are very old and kind of running down. I mean, the fact that America can't produce its own like explosives anymore or its own gunpowder is kind of a bad sign. I mean, or maybe America can't produce gunpowder. TNT, I think, is only made in Poland at this point in time. There's some new explosive they're allegedly using, but I don't even know. But we'll see. I mean, America does have what's necessary to industrialize again. It has a large, well-educated population of which to draw from. It has basically near limitless natural resources. Lots of it has most of like the raw stuff that you need to build things, and it has a population that is capable of doing it. So, like what happened with Russia when Russia was sanctioned is in the short term there was a big problem. But if you start to really think about it, Russia has a well-educated, skilled population. It had a lot of existing industry that it was able to scale up or activate or switch over to make substitute products. It's food self-sufficient to begin with, and it has its own energy. So it's a country that was able to adapt to the reduction in imports relatively easily. Like it took a while, and there was some inflation, and they had to raise interest rates and stuff like that. But you are starting to see more and more Russian products that wouldn't have existed a couple of years ago because they would have been imported directly from Europe. Or as Ursula would say, the Russian economy is in tatters. They're taking chips out of washing machines. The Russians are probably able to buy their washing machines now. So that is, I think, kind of one. That's like I think kind of the most interesting area. Now, once again, these are not mutually exclusive. The idea could be that Trump is trying to do a dramatic step, but he's kind of banking on the fact that Canada or some European countries or Australia or New Zealand or some countries that it's friendly with are going to come to him and try to make a deal. Um, and try to make a deal. So this might be ultimately targeted at China, but as a side result, he can maybe renegotiate deals with Europe and the UK and stuff like that. So that is, I think it's probably some combination of two and three. Something that I've learned about Trump over the years is you have to be very careful in taking what he says too seriously. Trump is not a stupid man. He's not a dumb man. I think a friend of mine described it is that if Trump is ignorant on a particular topic, he will just make something up on the spot. Even if he like it's just he'll just make it up. So I feel a lot of the time he just kind of like is these things are these are raised, and he just will talk about tariffs, and he won't really know what he's even going on about in that particular case because he doesn't have the notes in front of him. And unlike some other world leaders who might go, look, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I can't speak to that right now. Trump will just make something up on the spot. And that leads to, I think, a lot of confusion often as to what he's actually going to do. And I feel like the policies that he implemented upon coming to power this time shows a very well thought out, extensive political program that may not have been entirely clear from a lot of his just kind of bluster, a lot of his just playing to the crowd or whatever. Like they immediately started dismantling DEI on the first day. He immediately let Elon just go roughshod over the administrative state over stuff like that. They had a bunch of cultural things. They immediately started negotiating with Russia. Like there was actually a plan, and there was actually a coherent program that was being developed. So you have to be careful because Trump just says things. He just kind of throws them out there. And you have to look at what Trump does rather than what he says. With regards to like abortion, for instance, Trump said all kinds of different things about it over the years, that he's like pro-life or no, he's pro-abortion, that whatever. But I remind you all that he was the one who got it done. He was the one who appointed the Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade. You can say what you want about him and the goofy stuff he says about a federal abortion ban or whatever, but he got stuff done in a way that Reagan didn't, that Bush didn't, that none of these other like clowns did, and you have to give him that. And on a lot of other things, he's getting things done. He's nuking the DEI departments. He's nuking them from orbit. If they're going to rebuild them after he leaves, it's going to take time, and it's just going to make a mess of the system. So I think there was a coherent governing policy in order to run the country. But yeah, so I think that's the case. I think you could never underestimate Donald Trump, or just think that the things that he's doing come out of like a tariff is a cool word thing. So, well, I mean, I'm Catholic, so I'm a Christian, so I have a strong opinion on that issue. But anyways, So that is my thoughts on the tariff war. That's my thoughts on Donald Trump casting the die. I don't know exactly in this case like what the plan is. Um, what exactly the plan is that Trump is trying to implement, where he's going with this. But I'm willing to kind of give him kind of the benefit of the doubt. And as goofy as a lot of this is, and as like questionable as a lot of this is, I'm gonna give the man some time to cook. And people are doing this. I find a lot of doomers over the deportations. They're like, "There's not enough deportations. We haven't gotten rid of all the Mexicans in the first month." Like, give the guy some time. He's having to deal with an entire federal government, who are deliberately trying to stonewall him. And if you look at how many people have been fired over immigration related issues, like what's her name, that woman who released all the funding to go and uh, put up immigrants in like the luxury hotels in New York or stuff like that. So yeah, that's how it is. So I don't know. I hope I'll try to keep this. I like the new kind of layout better. I was trying to come up with something that was like kind of relaxing and chill for the background, but not cringe. I like kind of smoke and like abstract effects like that. Something that kind of reminds me a bit of a 1990s screensaver. So I think I will keep that. What? Wait, what is it that I? Did I say something weird? What was that war plan scandal? What are you talking about? Did I say something about a war plan? I I don't know. Does anyone know what Maxine is referring to? I actually have no idea. Maybe I was rambling on. I said something. But oh, the signal chat. Oh, okay, the signal chat. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of the whole signal chat thing. Um, I don't really have enough to go on in this particular case because I've heard different things about it. Um, there's a lot of different things, different opinions I've heard about this. I think it's somewhere probably in between the people who say that it's not a big deal because nothing that they were talking about was really classified, um, and stuff like that, or if it's just them like talking shit behind the scenes or something like that. To me, I think the bigger issue is that it was leaked. A, that they were using Signal to have these conversations, and B, that it got leaked to the public, and that somebody clearly leaked it. And Mark Waltz, or whatever his name is, I think tends to be the most likely person who was behind it. Sorry if my furnace is screeching. One sec. Okay. There we go. I turned off my radiator. So yeah. Well, Hegseth was just chosen because he is a sycophant who will do whatever Trump tells him to do, which once again I think is that is the right call. I think that is the right call. Was just picking people who of questionable competency, who would do what Trump tells them to do. So, yeah. Well, I mean, I live in Canada. It's still like, let me see what temperature is it outside right now. It's like negative 2 or 3 outside, so the heater's still on even though it's April. But that's just about where I live. So, anyways, guys, I think that was a good hour. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover, somewhat more coherently than normal. Just another thing that I kind of want to do at some point, and I know I always say these and I never do them, like an Argentism, uh, like video or stream where I just go through all of the the references and weird like slang or verbal things that I say. Like it is what it is, nothing I can do, but I digress. Or things like that, and just say like what the origin of them was, and like if there's some specific meaning. For some stuff, I just don't know if I really need to. Like I don't know if because some of them are just kind of common internet memes, but we'll have to see how we go about it. Because there are some things that like I came up with that probably other people haven't. And then there's like obviously I've taken stuff from other people. Like Felt It is obviously from Pepe. Take a Sip is from Almighty Tevin. I'm a Professional is from Almighty Tevin. And just kind of some other mannerisms and stuff like that. So, whatever, if there's any of those that you want me to cover, you can post them on Discord or in the comment section below. Or I also put up a YouTube community post, so you can post them there, and I will try to deal with that when it comes up. So, God bless everybody. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you